Bum. Okay, that's actually surprising that it felt like the C that I've been hearing. So mostly I've been focusing on the difference between C and D. And I do hear a difference. I'm going to stop describing them now because I believe that the way you memorize, and I don't think you can memorize notes, but the way you become acquainted with these notes is by actually visualizing them internally. So if I play it here and then I internalize it, when you internalize it, you can get much more accurate than a description. If I say C sounds silvery, that's a description. It doesn't really capture what C is. But if I sit here, I play this note, and then I hear it internally, I can hear everything about it. So that's a way of sort of, in my opinion, my theory, of describing it to the brain. But I also think there's other exercises we need to do. So this isn't going to be explanatory, actually. I'm just going to go in and do this. And I may explain a few things as I go. Right now, I'm just listening for these two notes kind of casually. Every time I play it, I'm also thinking it. Sometimes along with the note when I play it, sometimes after. I think it's a little bit of an art. You have to kind of go with what feels right for you. I also think at some point you have to stop thinking about what you're doing. So if I'm playing this note and I'm playing this note and I'm trying to compare them and trying to hear the differences, I don't think I'm going to hear the difference as well if I'm really focusing on it. Because it does seem that when you focus on things, they slip away a little bit. But if I'm doing something else like talking to you and I'm just playing these notes casually in the background, then I do start to hear more of a difference. So I think that's part of it. And that's why on Wednesday, today actually, when we come in at 1:30 for the instant premiere, you're going to see some of these exercises that you can do passively. This is the work I'm doing in addition to what I'm going to show you today, later at 1:30. Okay, so I played around with those enough. I want to switch it up. Now, what you might find interesting is maybe the C and D start to sound similar. But then when I add a new note, that new note has a texture all its own, and the new note's almost more clear than the other note. So again, what we're going to do is we're just going to audiate that note. And it doesn't matter for developing perfect pitch here, but we will develop a greater sense of internal hearing, and this will open up our ear as well. So we kind of win no matter what. So I'm going to replicate that because that one was very unique to me. The A always stands out. Surprising. I didn't think A would stand out since I've been focusing on C and D, but the A is standing out. So I don't believe you have to do too much of this. This is just about getting acquainted with things. I'm going to play these two notes together, the C and D. I'm going to see if I can, when putting them side by side, can you hear more of a difference? It's really about comparisons here. And again, I don't want to use vocal tension. That's why when I guessed the C at the beginning of the session, I thought at first because I didn't want to rely on where it felt in my throat. I don't want to use syllables for each of these notes. If I use syllables, then I am relying on something that's not giving me the complete picture of the tone. I don't want to use any type of like muscle tension or a feeling in my body unless it ends up being a very specific point. But even then, I want to try and listen into these tones. That's a goal. And right now, I'm just kind of casually listening to the bottom and the top note, comparing their sounds to each other. And then we can just kind of randomly play a note on the piano. Now I'm just going to play them kind of short. All right, and then I'm just going to go back and compare them one more time, and then I'll be done with this portion. And from here, I would just go do my ear training. Think of these as just like little warm-ups. We don't really care if we get a result. Those two almost sound the same to me. That one sounds different. Okay, so that's all we're doing. We're just playing around with things. And again, I'm only doing this to kind of document my progress, and you can share any experiences that you've had. Are you hearing nothing? Are they all just sounding like random notes to you? Let me know. I'm very curious. Are you hearing a little bit of something? Was there a particular exercise I did where they came out? Does it help if they're short versus long? These are all things that I'm kind of experimenting with right now. Comparing everything to see right now. So what if I compare everything to B flat? All right, that B flat actually kind of sticks out to me a little bit as being very different than the C. But what I was testing was, do the other colors change? Again, I don't have perfect pitch, but I do have sort of a lower level of it, kind of a tone awareness. It's not relative pitch because it's not that I necessarily have a C and then I can hear what D sounds like. They always kind of have that texture, but if you just played a note randomly on the piano, I wouldn't be able to necessarily get it right because I don't know all the other tones on the piano. So there's still too many options. But I also will never likely have the perfect pitch that somebody who's born with it has. I just don't think that's possible after a certain age. So what I'm doing here is just experimenting and seeing how far somebody my age can go. And I do think the more relative pitch you have, the harder it's going to be to learn perfect pitch because you already have associations between intervals. And I think it's going to be hard to switch over to just hearing these tones by themselves. So no, I don't think it's relative pitch, what I'm hearing. Because if I play C and G, I'm going to try and describe it, even though I say you really can't. The G, it just sounds somehow sharper to me. It's almost like you've got a panty novel and the G's like over here somewhere. The C is more kind of flat, just dull right in the center of things. But then if I play a B flat to a G, so you'd assume that this B flat to the G, if this is relative pitch, the G would take on a different timbre for me. Timbre is not the right word, but it kind of is when we're thinking about tone colors of individual notes. That timbre usually refers to an instrument. Yeah, the G still takes on the same quality, so it's not really a perfect pitch thing. It's not that I've learned what a fifth sounds like within a key or a sixth sounds like within a key. It's something else. I mean, just listen to the B flat on the C. B flat and F sharp. Hard to explain, but I can hear it. And I wasn't always able to hear anything. It's just that the more and more I taught this at the university, the more I started to realize, okay, there is something to these notes. The problem is when you're teaching somebody, you're in a different mode of learning. And so when you're teaching, you're very active. You have to think about what you're doing. But when you're just kind of casually sitting there by yourself, then you can kind of take those principles and see if you're hearing what your students are hearing. So that's kind of what I'm doing now is I'm experimenting with a lot of the stuff that did work for my students that did develop perfect pitch, but there's so many things that were involved in those daily sessions. I mean, we'd start out with a daily routine. We'd play that every day because we ended up getting it pretty fast. By the end of the daily routine, we had gone through some rudiments like major scales, major triads, eventually dominant seventh chords, minor seventh chords. We would sing all this stuff every single day. And in 6 to 8 minutes, I could make sure that information was covered. And then we'd go on to a mirror exercise where those always start on C. The Taylor routines always start on C. And the mirror exercises would train individual intervals. And we just add new intervals throughout the semester. And then from there, we'd go on and we do some interval identification of the piano. We do some dictations. So we were doing a lot of different things, but there were certain exercises when I was doing them at the piano, I thought to myself, these are the exercises that are helping me hear things, hear more deeply into music. But again, I was teaching it, I wasn't learning it. So now I'm attempting to teach myself. So we'll see where it goes. It's just going to be fun. If nothing else, I'm going to come in every 30 minutes, throw whatever I'm thinking at you, and we'll see what happens. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. I'll see you next time. There is an instant premiere on Wednesday, today, if you're watching this today, at 1:30 p.m. So maybe I'll see you there. We're going to have more of a programmed sequence that I do in addition to this. I'm now going to change it for the next